Welcome to the CTA Foundation CES interview series. My name is Steve Ewell, and I am Executive Director of the Consumer Technology Association Foundation. I am a 40-ish white male with a big red beard, and I am pleased to be joined today by KR Liu, Head of Brand Accessibility at Google. And I'm also pleased to say a trustee of the CTA Foundation. Welcome, KR.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to be here.
Since we talked last year at CES, you've rejoined Google and continued to push forward accessibility within the Google brand. Can you share some of the efforts that Google has going on around accessibility?
Yeah, first, let me describe myself. I'm a white female with short blonde hair, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm happy to talk about the amazing work that Google has been doing around accessibility and disability inclusion. My role at Google is really to help bring a disabled lens to the marketing that we create, from content to storytelling, and also to product, really elevating our products and the work that we have been doing for many years in accessibility. This year was a really interesting year, having joined Google, and then a couple months later, we entered COVID. And so my role really amplified for a few reasons. One was in COVID, we quickly released a COVID information dashboard website so that people could get information and accurate information, but we also included a resources section for the disability community to make sure that they could get access to information they needed within their community. And we also had racial equity and the racial justice and Black Lives Matter movement. And Google really stepped up and introduced our racial justice efforts and work and commitments. And within that, we launched several new websites around our commitments to disability inclusion, and also making sure that we are elevating the voices of disabled people throughout the year in our work. So my role is really to give a platform and a voice to the disabled community, along with amplifying the products and the technology that we create as Google to support that community.
Well, and those are so many different important topics that you're hitting on within there. And you've long been a champion for inclusion within the technology community and really within society at large. So, and I know you've been involved with various projects like, the Disability Collection with Verizon Media and Getty Images. Why is it so important to have diversity in the media and the marketing that we're all seeing?
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but we are seeing progress. And Google is an incredible media platform in itself, right? And out there, you're seeing disability represented less than 2% in media and film and in advertising. So for me, it's really important that people see themselves not only in the work that we do, but out there in the industry. You've seen evolution in advertising, from seeing same-sex couples in advertising, seeing diversity in advertising, but you still don't really see disability in the diversity of disability and the contribution to society that we've made in technology for many, many years. So it's important that we start to give that respect and visibility to the disability community, and also allow people to see themselves in the work that we do, because we, and myself as someone who's severely hard of hearing, really wants to see us out there in the world. And when we don't see ourselves represented, we really feel left out of the conversation. And we're 1 billion people in the world, right? That's a huge group of people that are not being included. So a couple of things. There's really great ways to create technology and innovation with disabled people. But also we need to be bringing disabled people into the creative process so that we can help advise companies and brands on how we should be represented. What are the stories we want to see? What are the issues that are important to us, so that we can really start to create change, so that we can start to destigmatize, disability. Disability has always been very stigmatized. So we want to show the human side of who we are. We want to show that we are productive members of society, that we have made so many wonderful contributions to the world. And my hope is that we will continue to see this evolution happening. We're seeing it more in film, we're seeing it more in advertising, we're seeing it more in media. I really think there's going to be a big momentum push forward in disability inclusion in marketing and in creative over the next few years.
Well, and you're obviously doing so much of that work from Google, but how can we as a technology industry as a whole really help take that on and really drive forward the inclusion, the accessibility, both in the conversations that we're having, but also in the products that we're making?
I would say the best thing that we can do is have a seat at the table for disabled people. The disability community has an extremely high unemployment rate, and it's gotten even worse because of COVID. But we are an incredible pipeline of talent, and we need to be providing seats at the table for that talent, whether it's in product design, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in brand. It can be even in finance or HR or diversity and inclusion roles. We need to be bringing the diverse perspectives of disabilities across companies so that we are making sure that they have a voice in every part of the business. So the best way that we can be more inclusive is to hire them, bring them into our companies, into our conversations, and invite the community into those conversations. When you're thinking about product design, when you're thinking about marketing campaigns, when you're thinking about, how to hire disabled people and making it as inclusive of an experience as possible, not just from when you're onboarding them or interviewing them, but allowing them to have a pathway to be successful into leadership roles within organizations, whether they're startup companies or whether they're major corporations. So I really think that's the first step, is to take a look at your own organization, your own hiring practices, your own pipeline of recruiting. And are you being inclusive of everyone, right? And are you looking at the amazing talent that's out there? And if you don't know how to find it, ask us. We are a very tight community. We very much support each other, and we want to help, give people an opportunity and a seat at the table. So I really think that's the first step, is to take a look at your own internal organization and see where there might be opportunity to be more inclusive of disabled people.
Yep, and I'll agree. The community within the disabled community really is such a strong group, and always willing to help organizations and people who, if they have the right purpose in mind, if they really are going about trying to help reach more people, hire more people, the community will be extremely supportive and helpful. I know that's been something, since I've joined the CTA Foundation and had a chance to really work with people across the entire disability spectrum. We've seen great things. And, it's also a matter of, there's a lot of great people working in accessibility in our companies, but expanding the reach and not just saying, oh, you have a disability, therefore you are our new head of accessibility, or some role along those lines. It's really helping broaden the roles across the organizations that people can engage. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing to help drive this conversation and move it forward.
Thank you. I just want to say one other thing. It also is important that we have allies that are not disabled. Like, I will definitely say, Steve, you've been an incredible ally and support for me over the last many years to open doors when you see opportunities. And I think allyship is also incredibly important, that we need people who are a voice or recognize there's an opportunity to open those doors for us. So I want to say I'm also very grateful for the fact that you have opened so many doors for me. And several years later, here we are sitting and having this conversation. So I think we're proof of what can happen when you are really being inclusive and using the position you're in to create opportunity for others, right? I think that's something we sometimes take for granted and don't think about, but we do have a responsibility that when we are in roles of influence, that we are thinking about who can we help bring along. So thank you. I just want to say that.
Well, I appreciate that. And No, I've just been so pleased to be able to work with you and the just the amazing work that you've done over the years and continue to do going forward. And really, actually, that leads us into our next topic really well. Another really important issue for you is hearing loss. As someone who has hearing loss, and while it's been a challenging year for everyone this year in 2020, there's been definite added challenges to people with hearing loss, people in the deaf community who can't read lips when we're all wearing masks. And I am very much in favor of people wearing masks. We need to keep people safe, but it does create a communication challenge. I know you've been involved with a number of projects within Google, such as live captions, but where do you see other emerging technologies within the hearing loss space, whether it is assistive hearing devices or other solutions like captions and other devices?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We'll continue to see the evolution of hearing technology. Captioning is continuing to evolve and be a critical need, especially in times of COVID and mask wearing. Google Live Transcribe product where it captions on your Android device real-time conversations has been incredibly critical for me as someone who's a lip reader. And masks are important, but have been incredibly frustrating. But that's also opened up opportunity in other areas, like, for example, a few weeks ago, Google launched a product on our experiments group called Look to Speak, where you're able to use your Android device to use your eyes to type and select words and then speak out for you just from your mobile device. So even in situations where you can't talk, or maybe you're in a place where you don't even feel safe to say something, there are devices out there that can actually use eyes to verbalize for you. So I think that also will evolve into something that really could help communities like the autism community and being nonverbal. I have a nephew who is 5 years old, still nonverbal, has autism, and I'm constantly looking at ways that we can use technology to help him and his community communicate, right? I think communication is so key, and there's so much opportunity there to help people stay engaged, stay connected, be able to communicate with them, whether that's conversations with family members or just other ways of being able to verbalize what you want to say or what you're thinking. Is super interesting to me, and especially with the advances in AI and machine learning. I think there'll be a lot more technology there. But I'm really excited to see the convergence of how hearing loss technology has been something that has evolved into something that everyone could use, but also has evolved into ways that we can think about other forms of helping people communicate. So I think that's a really exciting area for me. But of course, being personally passionate about continuing to push forward accessible hearing, affordable hearing, destigmatizing hearing loss, and the devices around that is super, super important to me. So I think we'll continue to see evolution in that industry, and Google has done great work there, especially in our Android suite. And also our captioning technology within Google Meet or within YouTube. And we have a lot of work to do to improve that technology, but we will. So I'm excited about all of those things, but I'm really just excited about people being excited about advancing accessible technology for people with disabilities. There's been a lot more momentum and focus around it because they see the opportunity that when you're designing for disabled people, you're actually designing for everyone, not just disabled people, right? You're creating technology that you may use at some point in your life, because everybody at some point in their life will be disabled, or you're using technology that can help family members, caregivers, friends. So I think just the attention around accessibility and disability that has been happening has me really excited.
Oh, that's some really amazing technology there, and especially looking at being able to bring eye gaze technology, which right now is a fairly small market, fairly expensive device for people who need it, and to be able to bring that to a much wider audience. And as you mentioned, that will be something that could be useful not just for people who rely on eye gaze technology to communicate, but for all of us as we're able to engage. And similarly with the hearing loss technology, and I know we're all looking forward to the rules about over-the-counter hearing aids, and the ability to bring new technologies out in that space. I'm someone who uses earbuds, and I love some of the features that companies you've been involved with have really pioneered as far as really changing the way that we can experience sound around us and augment hearing without necessarily having hearing aids, and bring down some of the stigmas that people experience with those. So I'm really excited for that space as well. Here we are at CES 2021 digitally together. This is where we're going to see a lot of emerging technologies coming, to market, being able to be announced, or have those private conversations to get ready to announce. Are there, beyond kind of your hearing tech and some of the assistive technologies that you've mentioned, are there areas of technology that you're excited to see emerging?
Actually, I would say I'm much more excited and focused around, representation of disability in marketing and advertising and brand, because I think it's still important that we need to elevate disability representation so that disabled people can start to trust brands, that they're really thinking about them, right? So we really need to see that external representation and inclusion before we can then get the disability community to be engaged in the products and the technology that brands create. So I think the first big opportunity that we have, that I'll go back to, is really elevating disability inclusion and the diversity inclusion movement that's been happening over the last few years, but also showing the diversity of disability, right? I think people forget that disability isn't just, an older white person, right? Disability is probably the largest diverse minority in the world, right? So we need to be paying more attention to the inclusion and the representation of disability in our work, even in our social media, in our storytelling, and our representation. And something that I'm really, really proud of that Google did with one of our biggest campaigns ever last year was Year in Search, that we do every year. And not only was our film inclusive from an experience perspective, but also we really highlighted disabilities throughout the entire campaign, from the film that we released to the interactive component. We talked about ableism, neurodiversity, but we also elevated people with disabilities in our magazine that we launched with Pop-Up Magazine, where you'll see stories around disabled people who've really come forward throughout 2020. So I think all those pieces, along with technology and innovation that's happening in accessibility and will always be ongoing, it's really, really important that we start to move the needle in representation. Because if you don't see yourself out there, you're not going to identify with it, and we're not going to move the needle in getting people to accept or respect disability and the people and who we are, right? And not just having it be something that's, looked down upon. It's more about we want to be seen as, equal members of society. We want to be seen as contributors, and we want to be respected for the work that not only we've done for so many years that people don't know about, but also we want to be able to have people, and especially young people, see themselves out there in the world. So I think there's a lot more work to be done in that perspective, along with the innovation that's been happening, will continue to evolve in technology. I think so. For me, I'm really, really focused on amplifying and changing disability representation in media, in film, and advertising, and the way you experience that needs to be truly inclusive. So for me, I think there's more opportunity there right now to really move the needle, and then along with that, the innovation that Google had been doing for many years will continue in product.
Well, very well said. And, if people want to learn more about all the work that you're doing, is there a site that they should go to learn more about it?
Yeah, so in 2020, we announced a new accessibility site for storytelling. So if you go to about.google.com/accessibility, you'll learn about not only the amazing storytelling and the work that Google had has done to amplify disabled voices, but you'll also see a lot of the amazing work in product innovation that we have done, and really allow you to experience what our users are experiencing, and the power of innovation. But not only that, but the power in seeing who people are and what they love, and what's their passion and what their purpose is, and the things that they want to pursue. So I would definitely go check that out, and there'll be more to come for sure.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, KR, for all the great work that you're doing. And thank you again for your support and involvement with the CTA Foundation. Really continue to be impressed with everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for having me. And I look forward to another wonderful CES.
Absolutely. We are going to have a great CES 2021. For the audience, if you're interested in learning more about the CTA Foundation, you can go to ctafoundation.tech. And thanks for joining us.